Welcome back to the National Pastime. I am Nash.
I'm Aaron.
Today's stories are about my recent jaunt back to the land of the rising sun to guide my friend up Mount Fuji and around Japan. He had wanted always to go, and he'd never been, and I told him I'd take him. So for conversational purposes, my friend, he's an extremely sweet individual, which is very nice, the nicest guy. Very sweet, super simple. He is, wow, what a one-layered guy. Just, I describe him as like Butters from South Park. Like, he's the nicest guy, but he doesn't really know anything. Like,
geez,
full stuff. Like, oh, gee whiz. Like, did you see all the tattoos that guy had? He was like missing his finger. What type of job do you think he does? Like, he's clearly a gangster. He's clearly a gang. Quit talking to him. But yeah, he's real shy, but he's super nice. And but yeah, so he's sweet and simple, has no firmness to his resolve or constitution. So for the purposes of conversation, we will call him Pudding. That will be his code name. So Pudding. Quick backstory on Pudding. Computer programmer, like high-level computer programmer, supposedly good at his job. He keeps getting promotions. I take his word for it. I don't know anything about that. But he was living with this girl. They were living together, talking about getting married, having a good time. And he'd always wanted to go to Japan. He's got a big infatuation with Japanese culture, mostly video games and cartoons. But, just as a whole, the rest of he does a little bit of martial arts as well, which is how we met, actually, he and I. And then his lady was just super hardcore, like fashionista, all about Japan. So they're like, oh yeah, we've always wanted to go. And I was like, well, as like a wedding gift, if you guys are gonna go to Japan, like I can take you around and get you into the places that normally you wouldn't be able to go because like they don't speak or read or write Japanese and they don't know anything about anything. And I was like, yeah, you're just a couple of tourists, but I lived there for years and I pop by pretty regularly. Like I'll take you around or whatever, and that'll be your wedding gift. And like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And so all that was well and good. And then one day my buddy woke up and he was like, this isn't working out. So he just broke it off with the girl, even though they were living together and everything, which I think is great because normally that's not who does the breaking off, I feel. But maybe, I don't know. But he was just like, oh, it's not working out. Like, you can keep living here. I mean, until you find a place. But just, we're not like clicking or whatever. She didn't take it very well. She moved out like right away. And all his buddies, including me, rejoiced because she wasn't like good. She wasn't great. She was kind of like one of those like bitter people. It's just like it's a drain on you.
It's just kind of a downer to be around.
Yeah, a bit of a downer. Like when she tried to be happy, it just came off as like exhausting. You're just tired standing next to her. Like, you're clearly it's taking too much of your energy to fake this happiness. It's taking my energy. But anyway, she got out of the picture, and then he was like, well, can we still go to Japan even though she's not around? I'm like, you bet, man. Like, I would prefer it this way. Let's do it. So we set a time. I was like, yeah, if you want to get you want to get a Japan that's more like the Japan that it is now, we should go soon because the 2020 Olympics are coming up in Tokyo, and that is rapidly changing the country. So you need to get there as soon as possible. And he was like, well, let's go like as soon as possible. So that was last year, and we're like, all right, the summertime then. So then the summertime rolled around, and we went. So Pudding and I went to Japan, and that's why. So right out of the gate, he's he self-admits that he learns things the hard way, quote unquote, the hard way. So I would always like drop these sprinkle some knowledge on him, and just like water off of a leaf, just like wouldn't absorb at all. And then I was like, yeah, we gotta get this flight. So, we gotta travel to the plane. So, make sure you pack the day before. And he's like, well, I'm just gonna work like a full day at work, and then we'll go fly. I was like,
okay. Sleep on the plane. It'll be
great.
Yeah.
I was like, you're going to be really tired. He's like, well, I'm just going to work, and then I'm going to pack when I get off of work, and then we'll leave. I'm like, you're going to work a full day of work, and then pack, and then take like a 16-hour flight. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's also never traveled before. Like the farthest he'd ever been, one time about a decade ago, he went to Ireland for about a week and a half. That's the extent of his travels, which is not that far. he's like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm like, all right, well, you hired me as your guide, so just know that there are certain Nash-Style caveats that go along with that. And it's like, we're going to have to save some money on this flight, because I'm a fiscally responsible individual, i.e. I am broke. And even though he was paying for a lot of the stuff, because I was his guide, but still. And I was like, okay, let's look at these flights. I found a flight. It wasn't the cheapest flight I've ever got. The average flight from around here, round trip to Japan and back, hovers between $1,200 and $1,400. And the best deal I ever got was $400. That was a rare one. But I found this one for $800, which is still good.
Yeah.
Still good. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. We got to pounce on this, man. So we got it, but it was on a Chinese airline I had never heard of that had, like, no history. And when we went to buy the tickets, this is the first time I've bought a lot of airline tickets through every conceivable means of buying airline tickets. Like you would go buy, like, scalped tickets on the street for a concert. Like, I've bought airline tickets in every conceivable way, travel tickets in every conceivable way. I've never seen this message before. I went to go buy these tickets, and it was online, and I got a message. It was like, hey, this airline hasn't really disclosed, like, a lot of details about its general deal, so we're not really sure at exactly the time that the plane is going to leave.
that we're really sure that they actually exist.
Yes, that was basically the gist of it. They were like, we can't confirm the time of the flight or the day or the cost. But you go ahead and just buy these tickets, and then in a week or less, we'll get back with you and let you know what the actual day and time and cost is. And I was like, this is cheap enough. We'll roll the dice. This is worth a gamble. And Flan was, oops, I'm going to have to bleep that out. His real name's Flan. I'm going to bleep this whole thing out. Pudding was like, it was like, well, gee whiz, like, is this all right? Like, does this plane even exist, And, like, where are we going to sit? Like, I don't know, if we're on the plane, who cares? And he's like, well, it's giving us the option to, like, pick our seats, Like, what if something goes wrong or I have some questions? Like, we should probably sit together. Like, that's fair enough. Like, he's never really traveled before, and, I'm supposed to be answering questions and taking care of him and stuff. And he gets nervous. Like, he's a decently nervous guy, even though he's super. That's probably why he's nervous, is because he's super nice. Like, he's very concerned about, like, offending other people and stuff like that. So he gets nervous, and so I was like, yeah, okay, we'll sit together, I guess. So we had to spend $30 to choose our seats to sit together. I was like, well, this sucks. And he's like, well, what if this isn't real? I'm like, well, it's like a no money back thing. So if it's not real, then we got hosed. We gambled and lost. He's like, oh, we should get the insurance, like, in case it's not a real airline, then we'll get our money back.
Well, you used a card, right?
Yeah.
You could always just say to your bank that it was a fraudulent charge and you get your money back.
Yeah. I mean, in theory. Yeah,
It takes time.
It takes time. Yeah, he wanted to cover his bases, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, cross your T's and dot your I's. That's fine. Fair enough. Yeah, sure. It wasn't expensive insurance, so I was like, yeah, you're footing a lot of the bill, so sure, I guess. You got it.
You do what you want to do.
Yeah, a lot, but not all. Not all the bill, because it was also like, it was like also supposed to be my gift to him. Yeah. So like, I also wound up minus a lot of money going into the trip, because when I was in South America, I think we talked about this, I budgeted very specifically so that I would have enough money to take him around Japan, and the bank stole half my money.
Yeah.
In secret fees. So I was like, shit! So right before I left, I had to borrow a bunch of money to make sure that, like, I could still give him the trip that he deserved and needed. Even though he was paying for a lot of stuff. He was paying for everything, and he shouldn't have, because, I was supposed to be giving him a present too. And so I was like, shit, so I had to borrow a lot of money from a bunch of different sources, including him. So I was like, hey man, can I borrow some money from you to give you this present? I'm good for it. Eventually. You got it. You know it. But yeah, so we got the insurance. We paid to have seats together. Specific seats that I chose based on analytics. I always, whenever I choose an airline seat, they've done a lot of studies, and I always pick my seat. It's usually center, slightly back behind the wing, aisle seat. That has the highest statistical chance of survival in a crash. So that's the one I get, and I get the aisle because I have to pee all the time, and I don't want to keep stepping over people on a 16-hour flight. So those are the seats I picked. Deliberate, intentional. We get to the airport. Oh, you know what? I'm skipping ahead. So, he's supposed to pick me up because we're flying out of Chicago in order to save money, and his parents live right outside of Chicago, so we're going to stay there the day before we leave. and then go to our early morning flight from there. We're just going to ditch his car at his parents' house. So he's coming to pick me up, and I'm like, hey, man, where are you? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm just getting off of work. I'm like, okay, well, you got to get over here, man. We're behind schedule. He's like, all right, I just got to stop by my house and pack. I'm like, you've had weeks to pack. And he's like, yeah, but I always pack last minute. I'm like, yeah, but just because that's a thing you've done in the past doesn't mean that's a thing you have to keep. It's not like you're branding, like you're not marketing yourself for a show. It's like, well, that's kind of my shtick, you know? I always annoyingly pack last minute. Like, you don't have to do that. Just pack on time. And so he was like an hour late getting over to me. And then right before he got to me, I had a little watch, like a little tiny wristwatch that I just got for climbing Aconcagua, like several months before. And I was like, well, I normally don't have watches, but I need this watch to keep him on the schedule and to get up in the morning and whatever. Right before he picked me up, it died. So I'm like, oh, we can't not have this watch. So then we had to go to Walmart to get a watch on the way to his parents' house because it was the only thing that was open. So he's already an hour late. Comes and picks me up. My watch dies. We have to stop at Walmart. All they have is like glitzy garbage. So I just pick one. I'm like, fine, I'll buy this watch begrudgingly. Get the watch. That set us back another hour. And he's like, I'm hungry. Like, well, of course you're hungry. Like, we're already 2 hours behind. We haven't even left the city yet. We have a 3-hour drive to your parents' house. He's like, we should get some food. I'm like, what do you want? He's like, chicken. I'm like, all right, well, everything's closed. It's nighttime. We're in Walmart. Do you want Walmart chicken? He's like, I want it hot. I want a hot chicken. I'm like, okay, all right, well, maybe like a proper grocery store. They have like deli counters, like maybe one of those is open. So we stopped at one and it was closed, of course, because it's just getting later in the night. I'm like, okay, looks like a fast food chicken place is your only choice. And he's like, where's one around here? I'm like, I don't know. I don't eat fast food.
Like Steak and Shake. They got like chicken fingers.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but we settled on a KFC. He got on his phone.
Oh, they're actually open?
Yeah, they were open. Just the drive-through. The attendant was very annoyed that I walked in. He's basically like, get out! The drive-through! Like, I'm sorry, I'm new here.
The door was open.
Yeah, I don't know the protocol. So we get to the drive. He does like a search on his phone, and he's like looking at like Yelp reviews for KFCs. He's like, well, the one here only has half a star, but this one has a full star. I'm like, it's KFC. They're all going to be garbage. And so we go to the one that was rated the highest in the middle of some ghetto. Now we're like almost another hour behind. We get in the drive-thru. Neither of us has any idea, one, the protocol of the KFC situation, because we've never been. And we don't know the menu. And so we get up, and we're just like panicking looking at the menu. There's a huge line behind us. And I was just like, ah! And so we're like, could we get this? And they're like, we're out of that. Like, could we get this? We're out of that. Like, could we get this? We're out of that. Like, what do you have? They're like, all we have is whatever kind of chicken. Like, could we get 2 buckets of that, please? So then they gave it to us, and we ate it, and he got immediate diarrhea.
Yep.
And my stomach. I didn't get diarrhea, but I just had, like, a ball of this chicken in my guts for, like, 3.5 days. Like, I could feel it. It was like I ate a small cannonball that was just, like, in my intestines. Like, it was slowly making it. Like, other food I would eat would, like, I could feel it go around. Like, it was just, like, going around the cannonball. It was very inconvenient.
I like me some fried chicken. And KFC is, nowadays, like, the worst fried chicken, in my opinion.
And the irony, of course, is that in Japan, where we were going, KFC is a delicacy.
Yeah, KFC in Japan, I'm sure, is very different.
That's where everyone gets their Christmas dinners. Is Japan.
Yeah, it was like a weird like tradition that grew there.
Yeah.
They really like the Colonel mascot.
That's right. Yeah, he is everywhere. They dress him up in samurai armor and Santa clothes and like video game stuff. Like they really like the Colonel. But yeah, you get like fancy cakes and like full on.
Yeah,
dinners and stuff.
Then you have to schedule it months in advance.
That's right. You better
sell out.
You better have a reservation at KFC, or you are not getting in.
But as far as fast food chicken places, Popeyes is in my opinion the best. They aren't super greasy.
That would have been nice.
They're very consistent with the quality of the food.
Yeah.
So that would be my pick. Church's would be second, but Church's I know is not as widespread.
Yeah, I'm not a fast food aficionado, so I was just like, yeah, KFC's a thing I know. I've heard of that.
They sell fried chicken. It's in the name.
It's in the name. Brand recognition. It's all I know. Yeah, so that didn't work out well. So we're already like 3 hours behind, and it was just like, oh. Then so we go to we go to get on the plane, and we're in the Chicago airport, and we're checking in, and they're checking the records, and they're like, okay, well, did you want to pick your seats? And we were like, we already did. And they're like, oh, well, you don't have any seats, so here's some new seats. We didn't even get the seats we paid for. We did.
Like you didn't get like a confirmation email or anything?
No, we did. We did. We got all the whole thing, and they were like, yeah, that's nothing. It's like, I had it with me. I was like, oh, are you sure we don't have these seats that we paid for? And they're like, nope. Like, all right. Thank you for the very definitive answer, just staring at me blankly like I'm wasting your time. I apologize.
It's like, well, then, can you give back the $30 I paid? Because you took the $30.
Nope.
What did you take the $30 for?
Exactly. That's when you get into the big, like, oh, well, we didn't take the $30. That was an online brokerage firm that took the $30. They never contacted us.
Oh, so I guess technically if it went through a third party.
Because this weird seedy Chinese airline doesn't have any foothold in the United States. So it was like they were doing like code share with some other thing. Like, they don't even exist. They're a definitely ghosty airline. It's just like, shut up and put me on your broken rocket tube. Get me there. And the other thing you get when you pay the cheapest price, besides not getting the seat you ordered, is a massive layover. We had a 20-hour layover in Shanghai, in China.
Yeah, and I assume that when you're getting tickets that are, almost half price.
Exactly.
That's probably the case.
Exactly, which I'm fine with. And so I warned Pudding. I was like, this is probably nothing, but I am on the Chinese red list. I am on the watch list. I'm sure it's fine. It's been 5 years since the last time I was there. I got a new passport. I'm sure it's nothing. And the second I got off the plane, they were like, you're coming here for an investigation. You are under investigation. I was like, oh, like a randomly selected thing? They're like, no, it's just you.
No, you're flagged.
You are under investigation. And Pudding was like, what's happening? Like, don't leave. Just wait. Wait for me. And so they took my passport. They took my my bag. They put my bag in the explosives and contraband search room unit. And then I was detained while they investigated me. I don't know.
How long did that take?
It felt like forever. Maybe it was only half an hour. But it felt like a long time. And I'll tell you one of the reasons it felt like a long time. I didn't really give a shit because I was like, well, my buddy is super tired and not keen to explore Shanghai right now, so we're probably going to stay in the airport the whole time anyway, and I got 20 hours to kill, so go nuts. But, I really had to pee, so they're, like, giving me the business, and then I'm like, hey, could I go pee? And they were just like, no. Like, oh, but I have to pee. Like, no. And I was like,
I don't want to give you the opportunity to go dump the drugs.
Yeah, I was like, you can send some goons with me. Like, send the whole team. It's fine.
Or just bring a bucket in here.
Yeah, I was like, I just have to pee. And they were like, no. All right, then. You win this round, communist Chinese police, because, I'm on my way somewhere instead of back from somewhere, so I can't afford to get detained. I haven't finished my job of guiding my friend around yet. So that took however long it took. It took a while. And then I had to go find my belongings, that, my checked bag and all that jazz, and Pudding's checked bag. And then we finally got there, and then I had to go to the room for investigation. Supposedly there was supposed to be like, the bomb and contraband guy looking over my stuff, and they're like, you got to go in this room, just you with him. I guess in case it's like a trip bomb, in case searching it is what causes it to explode. They wait for me to start searching it. So I'm like, okay, maybe, don't want to blow myself up. So I'd be like, don't open the bag. It's secretly a bomb. But I walk in there, and this dude could not have given less shits. Like, I walk in, and this guy's just like in the corner. He's like, hey, is this your bag? I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, you got any bombs in there? I was like, no.
I think so.
No, I don't. And he's like, okay. You can go. Like, I'm like, I mean, I don't, but like, you want to poke around in there a little bit? Like, we're already here. We're already here. Like, I had to walk all the way over here, at least like humor me a little bit, He's like, no, it's fine. Like, okay.
Well, if anybody's suspicious, it's me.
Yeah.
Don't pretend like I'm no one.
Yeah. Do you know who I am? Look, buddy, I'm on the list for a reason. You start rifling around that bag right now. You know what? I think I remembered I did pack my bombs today. Why don't you just open it up and loot around in there? You might find some stuff. I'm a very important person.
I demand a cavity search.
Right. Put on the gloves. This is happening. Stop playing words with friends. This is gonna happen right now. You're what is that? Castle Siege Clash of something?
Clash of Clans.
Yeah. Like, stop. Put your cell phone games down. You better post a status on Facebook that you're about to search my belongings for bombs. Do your job. But yeah, no, he just couldn't have given less of a shit. He's just like, okay, you can go. Like, okay. Is this a trick? If I gotta get out of here, you're gonna blackjack me and I'm gonna wake up in the brig? Like, I'm ready. But
so maybe they already searched it. You just had to confirm that it was your bag.
They said no. They were pretty clear that like they weren't gonna start proceedings until I got in there. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was getting ready to quit, which isn't really a thing in communist law enforcement. So, but neither is efficiency. So, so there you go. So after I kept trying to get my buddy to go out into Shanghai after we got our stuff, and he was like, "I'm tired. We just flew 16 hours. I'm tired." I'm like, "Well, you've been sitting for 16 hours. Don't you want to go like explore?"
Move around?
Yeah, and he's like, "We're gonna be in Japan soon. We're gonna be." Dude, I just want to, it's like the middle of the night. I'm like, all right, that's fair. Because by the time we were done with all the security stuff, we only had like maybe 9 usable hours left before we had to be back at the airport. I'm like, okay, 9 usable hours, but it was already 9 p.m. It's like, it's like a 2-hour ride into town, 2-hour ride back. So you're looking at maybe 5 hours, and then it's going to be like midnight before we get there. We don't know where we're going. I'm like, okay, you know what? We got a 20-hour layover on the way back, and it's in the middle of the day. So I'm like, okay, we can do Shanghai on the way back. That's fine. I'm just gonna go to bed on the airport floor like I normally do, and that's what we did. And then we got to Tokyo. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, so we get to Tokyo, and I'm telling my buddy, I'm like, hey man, told him repeatedly, I'm like, Japan is a cash-based society. Mm-hmm. They don't do the card. Like, there's a few touristy areas where you can like go to an upscale restaurant or a high-end hotel and pay with your card, but for the most part, like restaurants, shops, the public transportation, it's all cash. You're paying with cash, or you're paying with digi-currency. That's not your actual card. You load up another magnetic card that you use for your train pass and like convenience stores and whatever. But it's mostly cash usually. And I'm like, you gotta go, get this cash out, man. So we go to the ATM, and he's just so against carrying cash because he's just so set in his ways. And he doesn't learn well, and he's like, I only learned the hard way, and he's like,
so he took out 1,000 yen, and that's it.
Yeah, which is the equivalent of about $10. No, yeah, he took out a few $100, and we got into town, and so we had got this Airbnb to use as a base, right? And so the last time I was in Japan, I got an Airbnb that was super cheap, really nice. That place was no longer on the market and was booked up solid. In fact, the week after we got there, this didn't affect us, but the week after we got there, they passed a new law in Japan requiring all Airbnb owners to get a new license from the government. And, just another layer of bureaucracy. But even the upstanding people still had to apply for the license, and there was like a 1-week turnaround time. Everyone who had an Airbnb within this 2 weeks that was processing, they automatically had all their stuff canceled by the government. So, like, all these people were showing up in Japan with no place to stay.
Wow.
Like, everything just got canceled. And so, like, the Airbnb people were losing the income that they really needed.
Right.
And the people that were coming were losing a place to stay that they very much needed. It was a huge cluster, but it didn't affect us. We missed it by just a few days. But we got this Airbnb that was the cheapest, that looked like, the pictures made it look pretty good. But we get there, and it had like an incomplete address. And as we've previously discussed, the addresses in Japan are non sequitur nonsense. So we spent 2 hours just like wandering this neighborhood trying to find this place. Couldn't find it. Kept asking people for directions. Every time we asked someone, they would point us in the polar opposite of the previous person we asked. So we're just like, I don't know. Finally found a bike cop. And in Tokyo, cops mostly exist to give people directions. And they're very good at it. And this bike cop was like, yeah, it's right over there. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm real sure it's right over there. And I was like, because all these other people are saying the other direction, and also we were over there, and also this is supposed to be on Route 20, and we're on Route 20 right now. And he's like, it's right over there. And I was like, you're telling me that Route 20 is not this road with the giant sign we're standing under that says Route 20? And he's like, I'm telling you it's right over there.
No, this is Route 20, but the place you want to go is over there, regardless of what it says.
Yeah, and that's what that was the gist of what he said. And we went over there, and there it was. And we later found out that Route 20 splits off, and there's 2 Route 20s. Like, that defeats the whole purpose of numbering roads or naming them. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna want to go on Route 20, and then you're gonna be at the intersection of 20 and 20. And you just go like there wasn't any designation. There wasn't like an east or west or whatever. Like, it's just they were both 20. It's very infuriating. We did find the place. Not as the pictures described it. As structurally the same place. I mean, it was literally the same place, but the state that it was in was a little bit different than the photos suggested. The occupancy number was pretty high. Probably in a room about this size. We're living, and this is a small room for the one person listening. This room, what would you say it is? Like 10 by 20?
Maybe like 13 by...
So I would guess probably this whole place 25? Is probably like 250 square feet. And then that really room, exactly, probably like about 200.
I think that's like 13. How many times do you think you could lay down?
I don't know. But let's say let's say a 200 square foot room had like 20 some people in it. In these bunk beds, these rickety garbage bunk beds, and which not a huge deal, but they weren't like, there's established rules for like shared living areas, especially in Japan. Like in the sleeping area, you can't have any food, and all these gross people were just walking around like eating, dropping their food pieces everywhere, which is how we get ants, and we got bugs, and like Pudding was sleeping by an open window. And he kept getting, like, molested by giant Japanese mosquitoes. Like, every night they would just make off with a whole layer of flesh. He's just like, ah! And, of course, he's allergic to everything. And he's just like, ah! I woke up one time, and I was just laying in bed on my back, and I felt like I thought it was the breeze or something, like, on my shin. Like something, like maybe there was like a gust of wind that blew against my shin or whatever. And I looked down, and on my shin is a cockroach the size of a mouse. Like, just, I was like, oh, jeez! Like, huge! I mean, I'll give it to it. It was a very delicate walker. But still, like, I was just like, ah! And then it jumped off me and went into someone else's bunk. And I was just like, oh, God. And so they had a sink in that room, and next to the sink was, like, what looked like a year's worth of used disposable razors. Like, no one had thrown them away. They were all just, like, goopy and full of what I'm assuming to be pubic hair. Just, like, so gross. And, like, you get people, and I'm one of these people. I have night terrors occasionally, where I'll wake up in, like, a berserker rage, and it'll be a kind of a scene. I almost had one there, but I didn't have one. But, sometimes people, like, snore in their sleep. Like, there was lots of snoring people in there, which is whatever. I don't care. But then, like, some people will be like, and there were so many sleep moaners in this room. It was like trying to sleep through a ghost orgy. Like, it's just like, woo, woo, like it was like trying to sleep through a ghost orgy. It was just, I just lie awake like, and then there was this one. My buddy and I are pretty sure there was a guy like in the corner of the room, just constantly ferociously masturbating. And we don't know like what he was doing or what was going on, but it was just like, it sounded like if someone was
every night you just hear this rhythmic like fabric rustling,
but not even no, it was not a fabric rustle. It was like if someone was playing the bongos, like they were really playing the bongos, but where the bongo would be, it was like a big open tub of mayonnaise. So there's just like slapping, like constant, hard, open-handed, giant jar mayonnaise slaps.
Just like,
yes, yes,
basically like, skin against skin the whole time.
Yes, but like with a thick layer of mayo.
The slapping.
Just a
sweaty city.
Thick mayonnaise, like if you're just punching a jar of mayonnaise. But you're doing that all the time. Like, the sound never went away. It was so mysterious. Like, is it the same guy the whole time? Are they like rotating? Is it is Ben's chair in the corner of the room and people are just taking turns on the chair? Like, what's going on? We never found out. We didn't want to know. You don't ask a question you don't want the answers to.
Very true.
We didn't want to know. It was just one of those things, like, constantly in the back of your mind. You're just like, I probably know what this is, but why does it sound like this? And why does it never stop? Like, these are... I don't know if the questions would haunt me more or the answers would haunt me more. So I never investigated. I had better things going on. But that was our living quarters. But it did have... aside from the gross people, there were some cool people that lived there, and I had a nice roof so I could do my morning training and stuff on, so that was really nice. So we find the place. Day one, I was like, you know what? Be a nice treat for my buddy here. I'm going to take him over to Kabukicho, the Yakuza district, my old stomping grounds, the place I like the best. Like, that's going to be a good first impression. We're going to go out there and get some drinks. It's nighttime. Let's decompress and chill. So... this was the first... I've known this guy for 5 or 6 years now. We met at a mixed martial arts gym, and he was training for a cage fight. He just wanted to do one for a bucket list. Like, he's always had like an interest in martial arts, but he never trained before. He's more of a computer programmer type of guy and less of a combat athlete or a survivalist or an adventurer of any kind. But he'd always had an interest in it. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna buckle down and I'm gonna do this because I want to do it for my bucket list. So I met him. He was getting ready for his debut cage fight, his one and only one he ever wanted to have. And the week before he was gonna do it, he was doing his final preparations, and some guy fell on his leg and blew out his ACL. And so he had to have emergency surgery, and he was in rehab for a year. And so when he finished his rehab, he got the go-ahead to walk around and be a functional guy exercising again. So in order to celebrate, he went to his old alma mater university and played a game of drunken volleyball where some drunken dude promptly fell on that leg and blew out the same ACL and the same knee again. It had only been like a couple days since he was discharged, and he had to have another emergency surgery, another year of rehab, except it was worse than the first. So he was basically in 2.5 consecutive years of rehab, which messed him up. And he's never been in great shape to begin with. He's always been injury prone and sick all the time. And I always make fun of him because he's like, oh, geez, it's so cold outside. It's my sinuses and it's the allergies is what it is, and my joints. And I make fun. Like, he doesn't sound like that. That's just the affect that I give him. But he doesn't sound like that at all. He's from Chicago, so he has like a southern Chicago, hey, pizza, like that's what he sounds like. He's like, hey man, hockey, like he sounds like that. That's what he sounds like. That's a direct quote. Those are both direct quotes.
So he says hey man a lot.
Hey man, pizza, hockey, Blackhawks, sounds like that. But so I don't know, are the Blackhawks a hockey team? Something.
Yes, I believe so.
Ice Hawks. I'm just trying to combine things that sound like hockey. Ice Pucks. That's his favorite team, the Ice Pucks, the Chicago Ice Pucks. But yeah, so he was basically in rehab for like 2.5 years, and then he messed up his shoulder and his hips.
Jeez.
And because his knee was so messed up, he had to alter his walking gait, which messed up his hips. And then he was trying to exercise through that, but with messed up hips, it just travels up the kinetic chain, and the shoulders were next up on the chain, so the shoulders got messed up. And then if you're trying to wrestle around and stuff like that, that's hard on the neck if your shoulders are messed up. So it just keeps running uphill. So he has to keep doing stuff, and then he's always sick. Come to find out, he had flawed tonsils. So he was getting tonsillitis 5 times a year for a month at a time. So he would be down for the count for 5 months out of the year with tonsillitis. So he finally had his tonsils taken out as a 30-something adult, which is a very serious surgery if you are an adult. So then he was down for that, and also he had super bad eyes. So then he got ultra LASIK. It's not LASIK, it's something else. But he went blind for a month. He was just it's always something with this guy. But he's one of the nicest people. So he's a delicate flower that I feel the need to protect, but also while I'm protecting him, I will remind him that, he exists solely at my graces. Like, were it not for me, the world would have stomped you out long ago. Like, never forget this. Because I am a gracious friend. Like, he got a hold of me one time during the second bout of his ACL rehab. There was a vicious winter that I'm sure you remember because he lives around here. And he needed to go to work, but his driveway was covered in snow. And he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was like, I'm just gonna come over and shovel your driveway. And he was like, oh, you don't have to do that, man. I'm like, I know, that's why it's special. No one has to do anything. I'm amazing. I'm coming to shovel your driveway. Never forget this. And yeah, it's like a big thing. But he's like a super nice guy. So like, I normally don't get people presents for like specific designated present days. It's like, happy Valentine's, Christmas, birthday, or whatever, like, whatever shit society says you should be bringing a gift for. Like, I'll give a random, like, I'll bring someone a thing from, like, a place, whatever, no big. But yeah, he goes all out, and then just, like, one Christmas, he's like, hey, man, I got you all this stuff. I was like, oh, this is, like, legitimate stuff. Like, he was like, I got you this sealed, brand new PlayStation 4 game, it's $60, and also here's like a beat up computer so you can type your blogs and stuff and like all this shit. And I was like, wow, I didn't get you anything. But remember that time I shoveled your driveway? Never forget.
I will accept this as payment.
We are almost even. But yeah, so the moral there is that he is both super nice and extremely fragile. And also, as a result of his niceness, or maybe because of this, he is super nice. But he's also, like, very gullible and, like, naive. Like, he just doesn't know about, like, shysters and gangsters and, like, getting hustled.
Because in his mind, he's like, why would anyone ever do that?
Yeah, and, like, he's never not had money. Like, he makes, what's he make now? Like, $83,000 or $85,000 a year. And, like, he's never learned to budget in his life. Because he's always, like, whenever he wants a thing, he can just get it.
Yeah.
Like, instantly.
Yeah, so, like, for where we are, that's a pretty fair amount of money.
Yeah.
Especially
for this
if you're
area,
single.
Yeah, for this area, and he is single. For this area, that is money. That's actual money. And, yeah, he makes in 1 year what I make in 8 lifetimes. So... So it's a different world, so he doesn't really understand, and I don't really understand. We're from two different sides of the coin, and that coin is on two different sides of the tracks. It's Schrodinger's coin. It simultaneously exists in multiple states of existence. But yeah, so we go to Kabukicho. I think I'm like, we're gonna go there and relax. The mafia headquarters. That's where I go to relax. It's a bunch of neon and prostitutes and gambling and danger all the time, and people trying to. It's nice, And yeah, he was not nearly as relaxed as I thought he was gonna be. Like he was very he liked the neon and like the whole like it's very Japanesey, of the area. But he'd just come off like a ferocious, basically 36-hour travel nonstop if you count the layover, and then getting situated in the Airbnb, and then just straight from there to Kabukicho. He was pretty overwhelmed, but he was taking it all right in stride. I got us some drinks and we're walking around, and then the Nigerian mafia touts started like jumping on him because they could smell his weakness. They could just look at him and be like, "This guy needs a prostitute." And he's not ugly at all. Like, he's a fine-looking guy. He's not, like, the best-looking guy, but he looks good enough. He's, I don't know, he's shorter than me, bald. He has a pretty rockin' beard. Lots of money, good personality. He's not really in shape at all, actually, now that I think about it, but he's not fat. He's on the skinny side, but he's not skinny. He's an average. He's just a really average guy with a lot of money, and he's nice. So, and when you take into account what the rest of the world offers, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you right out of the gate, if you say someone's nice, it's like, wow, well that's better than 90% of everyone. And you're like, oh, he's not fat? Okay, all right. Well, he's got a lot of money. Awesome.
Jackpot.
Both eyes and like all the facial features you would expect a person to have, plus a beard. 2 thumbs up. Would date again, or whatever. Very gracious, super nice guy. But yeah, he's just getting really overwhelmed. Like these Nigerian mafia guys are like trying to sell him prostitutes, and like he is very self-conscious about like offending people. So, you know, he has a hard time like dealing with new people because he's not sure what is or isn't going to offend them. And he especially has a hard time dealing with salesmen or aggressive salesmen. Because, you know, like their whole thing is to get up in your business and like basically convince you to buy the thing that they're selling. And the implication being that if you don't do it, you're an asshole. And like the Nigerian mafia prostitute touts are like notoriously like the most aggressive touts in all of Japan. And he was just like wilting under the pressure of these guys. And like when I figured this out, I was like, oh no, I immediately ran interference. So now I was like communications, land nav, planner, and guard all at once. I was every job for this guy, and I was like, all right, you know, let's whatever. You're fine. We'll get through this. From now on, I will deal with all the touts and whatever. And so that was the first day, and then the second day, he just wasn't waking up. And then I was just trying to get him up. And I was like, well, hey man, you gotta get up. And he's like, oh man, I'm tired. I'm like, I don't care, get up. And he's like, okay. So I got him up, and then come to find out, he's like, yeah, it usually takes me about 3 hours to wake up, and that's if I get up at 9 at the earliest. And I was like, this is the land of the rising sun, man. You can't be getting up at like noon and then taking 3 hours to get up. Like, you gotta get up, man. The gears start turning when they start turning. And so I finally got him up, and then I'm like looking at all this stuff. So he made a list of things he wanted to do before we left. I told him, I was like, hey man, you know, this is your opportunity, and I'm gonna make sure that you get to do all the things you want to do. So make a list of the things you want to do, and I'll make sure you get to do all those things, you know. And I'll, you know, of course, Mount Fuji's on there. That's the main one. I'm gonna lead you up there, make sure you have a good time. But you know, I'm gonna take you around the whole country. Let you see whatever it is you want to see. So you just make this list, and I'll make sure that you get to all the stuff. And he's like, well, you know, yeah, I'll make this list, but you know, I figure we just, you know, I don't want to plan the whole trip out. You know, I just want to be relaxed. I figure, you know, I'll probably we'll just wing it. You know, we'll just wing it. We'll just do every day like whatever we can get done in a day. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So here's the thing. He self-admits he can only do one thing at a time. And he really, really means that in the most literal sense. Like he was drinking a drink with his hand, and then I was like, what time is it? And he's like, I don't know, let me check the time. And then he just like dumped the drink out to check the time because he forgot he was holding the drink. But like, that is not an isolated case. Like, I watched him do similar things for the whole month that we were there. And that's nothing against him. That's just, it is what it is. He self-admits it's one thing at a time, and he says that if he learns a new thing and he feels like he's never going to need it again, he immediately forgets it with no regret or consciousness at all. And he's not kidding around. He's got, and I mean this literally, this is not hyperbole, he is literally in possession of the worst memory I have ever seen in a human being. Like, he will have a conversation and then forget the contents of that conversation once the conversation is over.
Yeah, it's like my grandma, but
yeah,
you know.
He's basically just a walking Alzheimer's bomb, but he's super nice, and he doesn't have Alzheimer's. And like, I talked to him, I'd be like, hey, you know, like, how about, you know, we could practice our situational awareness. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. That just takes effort. I'm just gonna do whatever. Like, he just kind of like he goes from A to B like in a haze, like a permanent, just kind of like he's floating around. And I watched him trip up the stairs 3 times in a matter of a couple of minutes. Like, and once again, it is what it is. Like, he's just like, he's not very well, he's not coordinated. And he doesn't want to like do anything that require any sort of like putting forth an effort to better his skills. So like, I'm like, I could teach you some exercises to sharpen your situational awareness, to like become more aware of the space around you and the people within that space. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, well,
that's just a generally useful
It is.
skill.
It's got great transference.
For lots of different things.
It's got great transference. Yeah, so he's out of shape. He's not fat or anything. He's just very weak. So he's very weak. He gets sick all the time. He's super fragile. He's got bad situational awareness. He's got social anxiety. And he also can't read, like you know how 80 to 90% of communication is nonverbal. He can't read the nonverbal communications. He can't read the air of a situation. Like, he can't walk into a room and be like, this is dangerous. Like, he just walks in and he's like, people are here. I know that. I can see them here. Like,
So like what you're kind of describing sounds like he almost kind of falls on like maybe like the autism
It
spectrum.
sounds like he does, and I don't think he does. I don't think he literally does. He might. Maybe I do as well. I'm not sure, but just the opposite side of the spectrum. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe he does, but I'm just listing the facts, and then others can diagnose as they see fit or label as they see fit. But
Right. Obviously, I'm not a doctor.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
I'm just saying, for what the things you're describing, those are all kind of things that kind of hit. On there.
Yeah.
And not saying he necessarily has autism, but maybe like one of those like borderline kind of
Yeah,
things.
maybe. I don't know, but like once again, just the nicest guy. So it's like I will tolerate all these things because we are friends, and you're a nice guy. But yeah. So just really, once I realized that. I was like, you know, I agreed that we would wing the whole thing. I was just like, yeah, we'll wing it, man. Like, I'm not trying to stress you out. It's your vacation. I'm just here to take you around. But then, like, I realized at the end of day one, when I finally saw him like exposed. So that's the thing. Is like he's never in a new situation.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's fine to have no situational awareness and no coordination or any sort of effort put into your existence when you never leave the zone that you've carved out for yourself.
Right.
But now he's in a brand new place, and he's just like fish out of water.
Just wandering into traffic.
Just, yeah, like it was like watching a lemming. Like I really never knew when he was going to wander off and do, so I really had to keep an eye on him. And, yeah, once again, I mean, he's not stupid. Like, I feel like I'm painting a picture like this guy's an idiot. He's not an idiot. He's just, you really got to keep an eye on him when he's in a new area. Because he might fall down and hurt himself, like if it's a slippery ground, or like going up the stairs, or like maybe he'll bump into the wrong guy, missing a couple fingers, and then, you know, then it's a situation. So, you know, I got to keep an eye on him. But I was just like, yeah, we'll wing it. And then after seeing him that first day, I was like, oh my god, this list is huge. And if we go at the speed that he would normally go, like if he's only going to be functional for 1 hour of the day, like he's not going to accomplish anything on this list. And I was like, I have got to take control of this. He'll thank me when it's over. Like, I'm going to have to be, like, I'm going to have to actually, like, plan a route for him to accomplish these things. Like, we can't just fumble about casually, because he would, I know him, he would do a thing where he would just get up with no plan at all, and it'd be, like, 2 p.m, and he'd be like, what should I do today? What's good to do here? And then he would get on the internet, and he would Google a bunch of other clueless people, and then he'd be like, hey, forum chat room, like, what's a good thing to do here? And then everyone there would be like, well, I am also a lethargic person who's never been there, but here's some baseless advice. And then, like, he would maybe accomplish 10% of what was on his list. So I was like, no! Just default to me. And he did, because, like, he can't read or speak or write Japanese anyway. And I was just like, just follow me. I will lead you through your amazing trip. And that's what I did. But I was just like, oh, God. Like, I thought you could wing this, and, like, the amount of improvisation that it would require to wing a trip of this magnitude means you need to be capable of processing more than one thing at a time quickly, and he's not. That's just a fact. So it is now up to me. And it was up to me, and we did get everything done on the list. But we had to, and I didn't rush him. It's not like we were just like, go, get up, 6 a.m. We have 20 sights to see today. No time for soaking it in. Just go. Like, it wasn't that. Like, it was max cash. It's maximum casual, but with a plan. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, and sub plans and fallback plans. So it's just like, oh, if we're going to be in this area, then we can do this, and this, and then we'll just go to this area because it's close, and then we'll just casually rotate around instead of like going to an area, leaving, realizing there were 6 other things there, having to come back another day, and then blah, blah, blah. So I just made sure that we were making good use of the time. But what's some stuff? Oh, yeah. So I've never seen a more chronically tired human being than this guy. This guy, I would wake him up 9 o'clock at the latest. Usually around 8, though. I would get up between 6 and 7, do all my morning exercises, brush my teeth, blah, 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 morning stuff. Then I would get him up. He would just, like, sloth out of bed, and he would be groggy for, like, hours. And he's just like, I'm so tired. I'm tired because it's early, and it takes me, like, 3 hours to get up. And then, but because we were doing things the entire time that he was waking up, we'd be walking around. By the time that he was, quote-unquote, awake, he'd be like, oh, I'm tired from all the stuff we did this morning. I'm so tired. And then, like, by the time we'd be stopping doing what it's late, it's so late, I'm tired. We've been doing things all day, I'm so tired. And I'd be like, okay, well, you need to get to bed by 10 p.m. so that you can get to bed on time. So I would like put him to bed. I'd be like, we're going to bed now. And, you know, if we weren't partying, I'd like, we're going to bed now. And then he would go to bed. I would get up in the morning. And then I would get him up, and he'd be like, I'm so tired. I didn't get to bed until like I didn't get to sleep until like 3 a.m. I'm like, I put you to bed at 10. He's like, yeah, but I wasn't tired, so I couldn't sleep, so I just watched YouTube videos till I fell asleep. I'm like, that's why you were awake the whole time. Yeah. And then when he gets really like tired, he's not a good judge of like when he is hungry or tired. So like he's one of those guys that's just like forgets to eat. Like once he'll be hungry, of course, but like once you pass a certain threshold, you don't feel that you're hungry anymore, and that takes longer for some people than others. Like I get there too. Like if I go a full 24 hours without eating, I'm like, no, I'm not hungry. I'm just not hungry anymore. But for him, it's like he's got a very small window of being like feeling hungry. Like it's like a half hour, and then if he doesn't get there, he's like, oh, it's whatever. I'm like, no, you need to eat. You're tired all the time. And then he'd be like, oh, gee, my legs hurt. So we're walking so much. I can't. Oh, God. We had to take, like, half days off or, like, do thing, like he wanted to go to bathhouses. So we went to some bathhouses and, like, you know, stuff that required, like, minimal movement. He's just like, oh, my God, my muscles are so sore from the walking. Like, walking isn't an exercise. We've just been going from A to B.
The thing is, though, like, if you literally get, like, no exercise.
Well, that was the thing. And we were walking, like, to me, we were doing nothing. Like, I went from, like, training hardcore 5 hours a day, pushing my body to the limit, to just casually strolling slowly with this guy for 10 hours a day. But then you gotta think that like this guy was walking for 10 hours a day, where the 2 months leading up to this, he didn't do any. He had overtime at work like the whole time,
right.
So he was working like 12-hour days of sitting down every day for 2 months.
Yeah,
and then to unwind, he would play video games, which also is him sitting in front of a computer,
right,
sitting down.
Because that's the thing. Like I've been in those situations where like same thing. Where I have like a bunch of I'm having to work a bunch. Where it's like all I do at work is I sit the whole time. Like I mean, I get up and walk around to take breaks,
right? Yeah,
but yeah, there may be like a month where the most exercise I got in a day was like walking to the car.
Yeah, that was it.
In the morning and walking from the car at night.
That was it. He would get up in the morning, go to his car, which is very close to his bed. He would get up in the morning, go to his car, drive to work, sit down for 10 hours, leave work, get in his car, drive home, sit down for 6 hours playing video games, go to bed. That was it for 2 months. He probably took less than 100 steps a day for 2 months. And then I threw him into walking around for 10 hours a day, every day.
Yeah, because that was basically the same thing that happened to me the first time I went to New York. And then was like walking around the city everywhere.
Right.
Which like, it was weird. Like I wasn't tired.
Right.
But like my feet were sore.
Oh, he was tired, but also his legs. Just like, my legs. And
that's basically where I was like, man, I'll do shit most of the time.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow. That was like the beginning of me realizing that we were like on a very like fundamental level. We were not two different people, but two different creatures. Mm-hmm. Like we were two very different creatures, like plants that independently evolved at opposite sides of the world that happen to look similar, but are nothing alike at all genetically. Like that's what that was like. But yeah, he's just tired all the time. He's like, oh, my legs. So like when I discovered that I was going to need to take over, I was like, okay, we need to make up for that first lost day. I need to actually get this schedule going. So yeah, we walked around for like 10 hours the first couple of days, and then the third or fourth day, he was just like, God, jeez, I can't walk. I need to. It's just gotta sit. Is there like a thing we could do where we sit? We just sit all day. Like I don't know. Let's go to the bathhouse. And he really liked the bathhouse. And I love nothing more than getting naked in a room full of other naked dudes and just taking a bath with them. You know, it is super relaxing. That is only
get that nice communal soup.
That's right. Yeah, that's only half of a joke though. I do really like Japanese bathhouses.
You should have brought some of that to the bathhouse. You should have brought some of that stuff that you pour in water.
The bath jizz. Yeah. I spent weeks looking for that and I couldn't find it. And then right before I left, I found it and it was like $20 a bag. And I was like, oh, that's too much. But I did, yeah, because I was gonna get some for here. I wanted to bring it on the show and fill your bathtub with jizz, but it was too expensive. Don't worry, I am bringing a thing next episode. It's not from Japan. But it is a funny thing.
Is this domestic jizz you're bringing?
This It's all
Is
natural.
this locally sourced organic
It
jizz?
is.
Paper towel.
It's called
now.
kefir.
My
But
drink is sweating over the place.
Oh,
getting
yeah.
over my phone.
But no, this is an edible. I'm bringing you guys some edibles next time.
Like an edible marijuana edible?
It is. It's not marijuana. It's a frozen treat, tasty frozen treat.
Is it a
Well, I think it's tasty. It's probably tasty.
narcotic frozen?
It's not narcotic.
Okay.
It's
So that's
it's an iced cream.
Okay.
It's an iced cream sandwich.
Oh, it's made of like goat's milk or something.
I'm gonna let your mind wander.
Human milk?
I'm gonna let your minds wander. This is a product.
No, it can't be made of human milk because I know
Sure
that's
it
one
can.
that he hasn't.
I haven't tried. I want
and
it
I
so
think he would have
bad.
Eaten all of them.
I just come back with a milk mustache around my face, like, have you been eating people milk again? Like, you got me. No, I'm gonna let your minds wander on what it could be, and then I'm not gonna tell you, and you're gonna eat it on the show, and I'm gonna eat it with you guys because I've also never had it. And then
See, the thing is, like,
There's
that
all
kind
like-
of stuff doesn't bother me. Like,
And
if
then
I eat
no,
it,
it shouldn't bother you.
It's
It's
good, and
no,
then I
it's
found out what it is later. I'm just like,
it's not gross.
Who knew?
I can tell you right now, it's not gonna be gross. It's just gonna be like a what?
it'll just be one of those like things. Oh, really?
Yeah,
They
it's just
stuck
gonna.
out?
Yeah,
Huh.
that's what you're gonna be like. Oh, that's what this is. That's weird. Yeah.
I've got to go back and look because I think you said there was only like 3 types of milks that you haven't tried yet.
I can tell you
try.
I can tell you're building up too much. It's nothing like. It's more just like that's weird. It's nothing like glamorous or exciting.
Okay.
It's just a fun thing that I'm gonna bring.
It's made from platypus milk.
Yeah, God, I wish. A man can dream. But that'll be next episode. But no, so the buddy that I was gonna get that souvenir for the bath jizz, and I was like, well, that's way too much. But at the same store, Don Quixote, they did have a giant box of like a barrel, like a huge oil drum full of artisanal, handcrafted, wooden whittled dildos that on one end was like a nice big black wood cock, and on the other end is a bottle opener.
Oh, that's great.
So I was like, well, this guy drinks a lot, like enough, like he drinks recreationally, and I was like, I'm gonna get him this because this is sort of in the same vein, pun intended, as the other thing I was trying to get him. It's kind of dick related because I think I told this. He would come over to my place, the place I'm staying, and there'd be no ice. There'd be like no way to make ice, like the ice maker. I have a freezer, but no way to make ice. And I was like, he was like, you should get some ice trays, man. And I was like, I've got an ice tray. I had this ice tray from World War II, and it's just jagged pieces of metal.
Yeah.
And he's like, every time I try to get ice out of this, it just cuts my hand, and it doesn't count as an ice tray. I'm like, technically,
like the lever kind of thing.
yeah, but it doesn't have a lever. It's just serrated pieces of metal that you have to like manually pull out. And he's like, why is this even a thing? I'm like, if it was good enough for World War II, it's good enough now. And he's like, I'm getting you some ice trays. And he came back with these plastic ice trays that are in the shape of dicks and balls. So yeah, every time he comes over, we just have a big glass of dicks. I love it. So I was like, to repay the favor, I got him this the biggest, blackest cock whittled out of wood that I could find. That's also a bottle opener. And I was like, oh man. And Pudding was like, well, he drinks. He's like, oh, he drinks quite a bit. He's probably actually going to use this. And I was like, yeah, you might even open a bottle with it. Yeah, you see what I did there? And I told him his challenge was to use both functions simultaneously. When I gave it to him, and he was like, I know just the girl. I am texting her now. I was like, fantastic. So yeah,
He's fantastic at opening bottles for me.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the follow up to that. But yeah, so that's what I got him. But anyway, so when he wanted his break, when Pudding wanted his break, and he was like, hey, I'm tired all the time, and my legs, and oh geez, I took him to the place that I think was probably the place that he'd been wanting to go since before he was born. He was created to go to this. This is his mecca, Akihabara, if you know what that is. That is the nerd geek mecca of Japan. It is the it's where all the video games and the cosplayers and like just the movie stuff. It's like the pop culture center of Japan. I took him there, and he was finally at peace. He was like amongst his own kind. He went a lot of places in the month that I was taking him around. He went a lot of places, but I think that was his favorite. Because we had to go out of our way to go back there like 2 more times. And he loved it. He loved Akihabara. And I also like Akihabara. I mean, I love video games. They got a lot of like figurines and like models. I love figurines and models and capsule toys. Like when I lived in Japan, I had like a vicious capsule toy addiction, and they're not cheap in Japan. They're like between like $1 and $5 a try to just spin the little knob, and then you're like, oh, I didn't want this one. Now I gotta try again.
For a while, I was into the whole like blind box kind of thing, where it's like, oh, you got like, you buy a box, you don't know what's in it. You know, it's one of like a series of things.
It's bees. When I buy it, it's bees. It's always bees.
But like, you know, there's like the rare ones that like, you know, in the entire box that the place selling them gets, like only one of the individual boxes will have the rare thing in it.
Right.
But the rare thing is like super cool. And yeah,
you
usually
want
like,
it.
Yeah, it's like usually like figures from like, you know, anime, manga, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a while where I was buying a bunch of those, trying to get like, the rare ones.
Yeah, they'll get you. They'll get you. And yeah, so Pudding got into the capsule toys, and I was like, oh, I'm a bad influence. But he got into that, but not too bad. But I will tell you, he got hooked on crane machines.
Yeah.
And that's a pun, is what that is. He got hooked on crane machines. I'll say it again because
They really pulled him in.
They really pulled him in. I'm very proud of myself.
You had to claw him away?
I did. Ah, you guys. So good. So good. Yes, we are the best. But yeah, he was really just deep in the crane machines. And he was trying to win these Dragon Ball figures. And I think they retailed for like $25 each. And it was only like 100 yen a try, so $1 a try, and he definitely broke even on the one that he won. He spent about $25.
That's not too bad then. I thought you were gonna be like, yeah, he spent probably $300 to get one.
I thought that's how it was gonna go, but he about broke even, and then I told him to stop. I was like, look, you won. Stop. And he's like, but there's 2 more in there that I want. Just gonna get the whole collection. I was like, look, man, those are way out of the way. Like, you have to spend at least 50 more United States dollars to get each of these. They sell these in stores here.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like we could just leave and go
and just buy it for $25.
We could just leave and go buy them.
But
and then
he's got all that experience.
Yeah, he did.
Level 4 now.
Yeah, he leveled up a lot. And so I was like, okay, you know what? We can always come back. There's an arcade like on every corner. So we can always come back and try again. But let's see if we can find these in a store. Maybe save you some money, which is not a skill he has. He's never concerned himself with saving money. And I was like, you know what? While we're here, I'm going to teach you a little bit about budgeting. He probably forgot everything I taught him. He's probably like, this doesn't apply to me.
Because yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you know, fine, it's useful here, but once I'm home,
yeah,
never need it again.
I'm sure that's exactly what happened. But while we were there, I was like, let's go to the store and see if we can find these. And then we went to a store and we found them, and they were about $30 a piece. And he's like, all right, let's get them. Like, this will save us a ton of time. And I was like, whoa, lesson number 2. Now that we've located them, we have to find a couple more stores that have them, and we'll do a comparative. We'll do a comparative cost analysis and see what they're really worth. And yeah, we found a store selling them for $18. So we got them. So he wound up actually coming out ahead than what he would have. He would have paid twice as much. Which once again, you know, to him, now that he's here making money again, he doesn't give a shit about any of that. Like, he's swimming in a Scrooge McDuck vault of money and action figures. But yeah, anyway, I got sidetracked. I love action figures and little models and capsule toys and stuff. So I am a bit in video games, of course, and pop culture. So I'm a big fan of Akihabara. There's just like, I feel like there's a lot of, I don't want to say like maladjusted weirdos there, but like,
well, I mean, that's where,
because that's too harsh.
It's the otaku culture.
It is the otaku hub. That's their mecca.
And that's the thing. An otaku is not.
It's not
a different connotation.
That is a vague insult.
It's a derogatory term.
It is a derogatory. There are a certain subset of otaku, because you can technically, so in Japanese,
it could be an otaku of like anything.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so like I've actually been called an otaku of martial arts before, which I did not take derogatorily. Maybe I should have. But it's someone who's kind of like focused in on one thing, like at the comical expense of like normal things.
Right.
So it's like, why are you out in the middle of the forest, like fighting animals with your bare hands and surviving? I'm like, yeah, I'm studying this ancient technique. They're like, okay, well, you should probably be like getting an education or something. So probably taking things too far for a thing that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's basically taking their passions for some particular
whatever you've latched onto
to an extreme level.
You take it to the
it's
max.
almost a detriment to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So it's like, oh, you like video games? Well, do you like video games so much that you would spend all your salary on full-size statue replicas of the weapons and main characters?
Or they're like, you
and
have
then dress up
difficulty
as
holding
them?
a job because you're
Exactly.
constantly up all night playing games, and then you oversleep and are late to work every day.
Yeah, those are good ways to put
So
it.
it's almost, again, like, I know they usually refer to it as like addiction, but like,
yeah, it's got a different. It's more like
it's a little bit different connotation.
It's like kind of a geek nerd addiction obsession all rolled into one, but with different sort of like layers of seriousness. So sometimes it's just like whatever. Like you just be like, oh, that guy plays games on the weekend. What an otaku that guy is. But you can also be like, this guy is literally legally married to his body pillow.
Yeah.
What an otaku he is. So yeah, there's quite the spectrum. So I don't want to say like smelly weirdo, maladjusted weirdos. Although you can get those anywhere. It's more like if you go to like one of those larger comic conventions, because you get people dressed up in costumes, you get people like going in a group, you get people who obviously are like super into one specific thing. So imagine that, but as like a whole town of that, just shoulder to shoulder all the time. That.
And yeah, and some people that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, it's a little much.
It is. Well, it is.
It's neat to be there to
it's
experience
both of those
it.
things.
It's like same thing when I've been to like New York Comic Con, which is like huge, and yeah, you get the same kind of thing there, and it's fun. It's neat to experience it, but I wouldn't want that all the time.
The best thing about Akihabara though is it is a town, so you don't have to pay admission.
Right.
You just go.
You just go there. You can just
and when you want to leave, you just leave, and it's never going anywhere. So you can go at any time, and it's always going to be there, and you can come and go as you please. So in that respect, it's pretty nice, and they do have like limited time exhibitions and stuff going on all the time. So it's a cool place. But that was definitely Pudding's favorite place to be. Like, I was like, I don't want you to have like a one-sided trip. You've got like temples and gardens and stuff on your list, so we're gonna go do that too. So like I took him to like the largest temple, took him to the largest shrine. I was telling him about like the difference between temples and shrines, and teaching him about like the purification fountains before you go into the shrines, and then like the purification incense and like what to do with that, and like the different rituals and why they exist and whatever. And who knows if he remembered it, but he was interested at the time, which is all that matters. Most people who get on a guided tour, that same experience, you get a bunch of information thrown at you, and most of it doesn't stick unless you're like really into that thing. I love history and culture and stuff like that, but most people are just like, I just wanted to learn about it while I was here. Just to have like a little bit of context. Went to a few of the like really big famous gardens and walked around, and I was talking about like the different styles of tea houses and things like that. And then there was a couple other gardens, and he was just like, are they
pretty much just the same?
Yeah, that's basically it. He was like, are they like the other gardens? And I was like, they are very similar. And he's like, we don't have to go there. So we went to the other one. Like, I got a general idea of like what a big Japanese garden is like. I'm like, okay, you got it. Your trip. We already did a couple gardens. That'll save me some time on describe. I've already been everywhere, so it's fine. So we were doing that. And so yeah, I made sure that his education was good. And I will say this much for him though, even though he is fragile and injury prone and anxious and all this stuff, he is never one to shy away from trying a new thing ever. So he was there, and I'm just like, hey, what do you know about Japanese foods? And he's like, man, basically nothing. I had sushi. I eat sushi.
They sure like rice,
yeah,
from what I hear.
Sure is a lot of fish and rice around here. And so I'm like, well, let's get some Japanese food that's not sushi. And so I was giving him all the greats. Okonomiyaki, which is my favorite cooked Japanese food, which is kind of like a pancake that's also an omelet made out of cabbage. It's great, full of meat. Yeah, so good. Track down one of those guys. Takoyaki, which is an octopus ball. They're octopus balls.
Also delicious.
They are so delicious. I forget that he's like fragile and not used to the things though. So the thing about takoyaki is it's the perfect drunken street food. They give it to you in like a little like paper basket. Like you might get like nachos in if you're in the States, or like poutine if you're in like Southeast Canada or whatever. Like it's just that like cardboard boat that people put food in. So they usually have like 6 or 8 takoyaki balls in there, and so they're a dough ball that they fry on this griddle into a sphere. It's like a muffin.
Like if you think of like a hush puppy.
Oh yeah, if you know what that is.
Smaller.
It's a dough sphere.
Yeah.
And it's the outside is cooked, but the inside the dough is mostly liquid. And inside of that is just a little octopus tentacle, or some chopped up octopus sometimes. They don't use the whole tentacle, but they're seasoned really well. They're super delicious. They're savory, but just a tiny sweet. But I forgot that, because it's a non-issue in Japan, but like when they give them to you, the outside is it's pretty hot, but the inside is really hot. And like everyone in Japan just knows this. You just stick a toothpick in them, and then you put them in your mouth and eat them. And you're just like, I guess you get used to it. I don't know. So we got some.
That's the thing. Like, if you know to expect it,
right,
it's not so bad.
And so like I didn't think
but
to
if you
warn
think
him.
like, oh, it's just like it's slightly above room temperature, just like normal warm food.
Yeah.
And you put it in, there's like, oh god, there's molten lava in my mouth.
That's what happened to him. I didn't even think to warn him, because I was like, well, this is, just watch me eat it, and that's how you eat it. So he's like, okay, so this is takoyaki. And I was like, yes. I put the toothpick in, put it in my mouth, and he's like, how is it? I'm like, oh, it's good. This is it's a representative sample. Like, if you don't like this, you don't like takoyaki. So he put the toothpick in, popped it into his mouth, and he was just like, ah! Ah! Like, he just bit into it, and all the boiling hot lava goo spilled out. And I was like, what's your deal, man? He's like, oh, it's so hot. It's destroying my mouth. I was like, what a drama queen this guy is. Yeah, the next day, the entirety of the inside of his mouth and his tongue
like
was
blistered.
Bright white with blisters. Everything was bright with blisters. Later in the day, it all just fell out. Like his mouth fell out of his mouth. Ugh. Like it was all just like bleh, like it sloughed off, and it was just like a bloody pink mess. And he was like, I can't taste anything. Is this how it normally goes? I was like, oh yeah, I guess it's too hot for you. He's like, I don't like hot foods. I don't do well with hot foods. It's got to cool them down. And so we gave him a couple days to grow new taste buds. And then we tried it again, but this time he let them cool for like 15 minutes, which is a bit of a social faux pas, but the only way he could consume them. And he was hooked. After this, he never shut up about takoyaki. Anytime he was like, I'm hungry, let's get takoyaki. I'm like, there are other foods. And just all the time. And last time I talked to him, he was in the process of like ordering all the gear that it takes to cook them yourself. Yeah, addicted. And we had like a really high-end takoyaki place across the street from where we were staying. So, like, at any time, he could just get up and be like, I want takoyaki! Like, it is the middle of the night. It's just like, let's go to takoyaki! And then, like, you couldn't, it was like, you could just order it from outside, but if you wanted to go in and sit down, you had to buy beers also, or a drink or whatever, because it was a pretty small place. It was actually staffed by native Osaka people, which is where takoyaki are from. The place was a hoot, man. Like the guys cooking the takoyaki were always like dancing and playing tricks on each other and shit. Like just a couple of lads that happened to run a takoyaki place. But it was really good, and we went there all the time. And we got like, most people would just go there after work and get like 6 takoyaki split between 2 people and a beer, and then stay there for a while. We would go in and get like 20 or 30 takoyaki and like multiple beers, and just like, they probably thought we were barbarians. But my buddy was throwing down the coin, so they never said shit about it. We were just like, more! But they wouldn't let you order a big amount. You had to order them in like groups of 8. So it's just like,
there's no way you're gonna eat that many.
Yeah. Well, like, it takes a long time to cook, and you only have like a small batch of space to cook them at. So other people would be placing orders too. So if we ordered like 30, then everyone else would be waiting an hour for their food. Yeah. So they would do 8 for us, and then at the same time they were doing 8 for like several other people, and then eventually they would circle back to us. But we tried to like place a multiple, like, could we get 4 orders of 8, please? And they were just like, 1 order of 8 coming right up. Like, fine. But yeah, he got real into takoyaki. But yeah, so eventually. One of the days I took him to the Fuji, not Fuji, sorry, the Tokyo Dome amusement park, which is an amusement park right next to Tokyo Dome. Tokyo Dome is their big like stadium in the center of Tokyo, and on the grounds of the dome and around the dome is an amusement park. That's like a permanent thing of like rides and stalls and food, and like it's a cool date spot, and like it lights up at night or whatever. And I was like, oh man, my buddy's gonna love this. You know, it's got a giant Ferris wheel, it's got rides, it's got food. He loves food. It's got a mall. Like, it would just go casually walk around. But the thing I really wanted to do that I was so psyched, they have a roller coaster there, and the roller coaster goes through the middle of the Ferris wheel while it's on, and then in and out of a couple buildings, like department stores. It's just like you just fly into a Macy's, like whoa! They just like go through. It's in a tube, so you can't like throw anything out into the store. Like high five someone's arm off.
So does it go through like the apex, or like not the apex,
the center?
The center of the Ferris wheel.
It goes through the center.
Because otherwise I'm thinking like, well, because there's spokes around there, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure like mechanically how they engineered it to rotate around, but I mean a Ferris wheel can't be that hard to like put a hole in the middle of it.
It's just a big circle that turns on an axis.
Yeah. There's probably multiple ways to do that, but yeah, it goes through the middle of the Ferris wheel, and then it goes like around kind of downtown a little bit and through a couple buildings or whatever. And I was like, finally, I have someone to ride this with. I'm psyched. And it was closed for repairs.
Aww.
So I was like, oh, and then like everything else, he was just like, no, I don't know. This place isn't. It's whatever. I'm like, it is whatever. Damn it. And
Great if they had a roller coaster that like went through stuff.
And then I was like, well, let's get some takoyaki, buddy. That'll cheer you up. And then, well, we got the takoyaki, and he was like, this isn't as good as the place by us. Like, he's not wrong. Like, it was just adequate. And they had like one, they had like food trucks and stuff along with permanent stores. And so we're just sitting outside eating our mediocre takoyaki and just looking around at different stuff. They had like a shaved ice stand. The shaved ice is very popular in Japan. Maybe it used to be more popular than ice cream. I think ice cream has recently like overtaken it, but they do like the shaved ice. But so there was a permanent just line for people for the shaved ice, but next to the shaved ice was this Arabian guy with a truck called Long Potatoes. And
so it's one of those things where they just like spiral a whole potato in one huge thing and fry it.
Yes. Yeah. So it was just like a potato crisp or like a French fry, but it was super long. It was like, I don't know, like 2 meters long. It's like 6 feet of singular like non-broken French fried potato, and nobody was there. Like nobody wanted this thing. And like you could tell this guy like sunk his life savings. Like I was like, wow, like the real estate at the Tokyo amusement park cannot be cheap.
Yeah.
And this guy was just like, long potato. I don't know why you thought people were really they're gonna go nuts for the long potato, but they are not feeling it, man. But the whole place was a downer. Just like takoyaki mediocre, roller coaster down for the count, and long potato. I was like, let's get out of here, man. And so soon enough, the monsoon season was blowing in, and I was like, man, we got to get to Mount Fuji before we can't get up Mount Fuji, because this is on the list, and this is a major one, debatably the major one. We got to get there. So I was like, you know what, Mount Fuji. It's decently high. It's not super high, but it is high enough that if you were some really old person who was sick or like a baby, you're probably going to get altitude sickness if you go up too fast. And he is a really old baby. So I was like, I got to take care of you, man. 2 days of no drinking alcohol before we go there. And he's like, okay, all right. So we didn't drink any alcohol for a couple of days. And I was like, you got to go to the ATM. Get a bunch of money out. Get all the money you can take out. I think the maximum withdrawal was 50,000 yen at a time, which is $500. Is that right? 1,000 is 10. 10,000 is, yeah, that's right. Yeah. 50,000. So I was like, get it all out, man. Japan is a cash-based society, as you know, and we're going to a rural area, so there's not going to be anything. Get this out. And he was like, okay. So I did that. I was like, I'm gonna just do some last minute prep for the thing, and get some rations and whatever. So a couple days go by, and we head out. And I mentioned this on the last episode. Not climbing season yet, but we went like 2 days before climbing season started. So I was like, you know what? I've climbed in not climbing season before, and things have been open on the mountain. They have a series of huts along the way. It's broken down into stations, 0 through 10. 0, you haven't started yet. 10 is the top. And the 5th station is a giant shanty town with all kinds of huts and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, you know, we're gonna get some rations for the journey, but we should be able to restock when we get there. But we'll get enough. And so, you know, he's like, yeah, well, geez, is it gonna be cold? And I'm like, what's, you know, at times it's gonna be cold. And he's like, what should I bring? And I was like, you know, bring a sweater or whatever in case you get cold, or like a hoodie, you know, like a sweatshirt. And I was like, I'll bring a thing just in case it gets cold. You know, mountain weather is fickle. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know, you're going to be carrying a backpack because it's your climb. It's all going to be shit for you in there, so you're going to carry it. And I was like, I've climbed this mountain twice with no supplies at all, so I'm not worried for me. But we're going to get you some food, get a little bit of rations. You're going to carry my rations because who cares? But there's just small stuff, like a little block of, like, granola bar, you know. And I was like, you're going to get a 2 liter of electrolyte replacement fluid, like a Gatorade, except it's Pocari Sweat, which is the Japanese Gatorade. Pocari means camel, so it's camel sweat. It's the literal name. It's delicious. So good. I guess you can get it here imported. It's a little pricey here, though. So he had a sweatshirt, had some food, 2 liters of electrolyte drink. I made him carry my first aid kit for him. Because I was like, you know, I'm a licensed wilderness first responder and an experienced guide, and so if you pass out or whatever, like, I'll patch you up, no worries. And then I did some research on the trail that we were going to take. I found out that the Yoshitaguchi Trail, I took an offshoot of that trail when I did my monk's barefoot pilgrimage up there, my warrior monk pilgrimage up there. But the main Yoshitaguchi Trail has been heavily renovated in the last couple of years. Super duper safe. Super well maintained. In fact, a few years ago, they finally did it. They got Mount Fuji on the UNESCO World Heritage List. So it is now an official World Heritage Site.
Yeah, I was always surprised that it wasn't.
Yeah, because it was so dirty. It's just people, you know, also all the dead bodies around in the woods. Those are still there. Yeah. But now they've got that one really well-maintained path through where you don't even have to go in there, and also it's illegal to go in there anyway. Didn't stop me either of the other times I went in, but I was like, you know what? We're going to go on this trail. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's well maintained. They have like porta potties along the way. We're never going to be so far away from people that if you fall and need a medevac, like, I'll be able to find you somebody. Like, this is good. This is the way that everybody takes now. That's just like a normal person who wants to do quote unquote the entire mountain. I was like, this is the absolute safest, most well-trodden way to go. This is the way we're going to go. Can't go wrong with this, for the most part. So we set out. And straight from the get-go. So normally, if I was to be climbing the mountain, like any of the other times I've climbed the mountain, I would set out the night before, get as close as I can, sleep on the ground overnight, and then at sunrise, start the climb. My buddy is not built for that. So I was like, well, I'll just wake you up in the morning, and we'll start going on the train then. So got him up at 4:30 in the morning. He actually got up because I got him up, and I did all my morning stuff. We did final preparations, and then we got on the trains, but the trains weren't running in sync to get us there. There was a couple of problems along the way, and then there was road construction once we get to the rural areas that slowed us down drastically. So normally I would have started climbing from this shrine at around, maybe 5 in the morning. We didn't get to the shrine until around 11 in the morning, which is a bit of a setback. But when you factor in that the plan was to do it all in one go with no breaks, it didn't really matter. Plus or minus a few hours doesn't matter. You're going to be climbing in the nighttime no matter what, because you're looking at at the speed that we were going, maybe a 24-hour turnaround time going nonstop. So I was like, okay, how you feeling? He's like, I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, remember the plan. Does this still sound like a thing you can do? We're going to start at the base. We're going to go all the way up to the top in one go. We're going to get to the top, and then we're going to go all the way back down in one go. We're not going to stop and rest. We'll take like 5-minute breaks here and there, but it's going to be one nonstop ruck. We're slogging the whole way through. It's probably going to be about 24 hours. And he's like, yeah, I got this, man. And I was like, okay. Because I was like, remember, you were just casually walking for 10 hours, and then you had to rest for a couple days. You were having a real tough go, and this is going to be harder than walking. And he was like, I can do it. And I was like, all right. So we got about an hour in, and this guy was dying, like literally just like like every breath he took is the sound that someone who's like treading water in a rough sea and they're just trying not to drown, like they're just waiting for the dip in the wave where they can get their emergency breath. So it's like yeah, every breath. That's what this guy sounded like, every breath. And I was like, you doing all right? He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, just visibly not having a comfortable time, but Mount Fuji is notoriously uncomfortable if you've never done it. So he's just like head down, shoulders hunched, march. And I'm like, well, he's going, he's going slow, but he's going. And sweat was pouring off of this guy before we even started. Like when we got to the shrine where you start, he was dripping with sweat. But then, once we started going, like, this guy was losing fluids, like, a concerning amount of fluid. And I was like, how you feeling? And he's like, pretty tired, but yeah, I can make it. I'm like, can you make it? He's like, I can make it. I'm like, okay. So we're going. We passed the first station, second station, third station, going. I'm like, hey, man, when you take a break, you need to get a little nummies in you to have a little bit of your rations. Make sure you're taking that electrolyte replacement drink, because you are having a year's worth of exercise right now at your former rate. Like, you're condensing an entire year's worth of physical activity into one day right now at your previous rate of doing nothing. And it is showing that you are not taking to it very well. And he's like, yeah, I can do it. So I made him drink a bit, made him eat a bit. We get going. We make it to the fifth station, the shantytown, the quote-unquote halfway point. This is where a lot of normie schlubs start their climb, in quotation marks, because there's a bus station at one of there's several fifth stations, because it's a broad mountain, so it orbits around the midline, and there's a bus station at a couple of them, so a lot of people just take a bus to the fifth station, walk up and down in a day, and then take the bus away, just bang it out. And that is not climbing Mount Fuji. That's seeing Mount Fuji. That's being on Mount Fuji, but that is not climbing Mount Fuji. And, I mean, you do what you gotta do. Like, if you don't have the time, you do the best you can with what you have. But that's not climbing Mount Fuji. You do what you can. I went and saw Everest. And I hiked around the Everest range. I didn't climb Everest yet. I haven't climbed Everest. I was touching the same rocks that mountain range is a part of. But that is not the same thing. But, so, anyway, we get to the fifth station. I'm like, how you doing, buddy? How you holding up? And he's like, I'm pretty good. I can make it. I'm like, all right, well, you don't look good, but I'm taking your word for it. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, can you still stick to the plan all in one go? He's like, yeah, but now that we're here at the fifth station, nothing's like open. And I was looking around. I was like, yeah, actually, everything is closed. Like, I'm surprised. Like, formally, things were open when I climbed this, even though it wasn't climbing season. Like, nothing is open. Like, everything is really closed, concerningly closed. And I was like, we might not be able to re-ration for a while. But there was one hut. One hut was open. And they were selling hot food, and you could rent out rooms there if you needed to stay. And I was like, okay, well, at least there's this one hut at the fifth station. And I was like, how you doing, buddy? We still need to get Fuji sticks, which are there's just a wooden staff for climbing the mountain. And people say, oh, is that really necessary? Yes, with an exclamation point. Hard stop. Yes, you need some kind of stick to climb the mountain. And they're like, oh, but it's so you can get up easy. Yeah, you can get up easy. It's getting down that's the problem. It's loose volcanic rock at irregular intervals. You need a third point of contact. You need the stick. And we didn't have any trekking poles. And I like the stick as a souvenir. I've got a whole pile of Fuji sticks. I like him as a souvenir, and I figured he would too. So I was like, we need to get our Fuji sticks. So the first part, stations 0 through 5 are a very lush, humid forest, which probably contributed to him sweating so much. It's a very lush, humid forest. Once you get to Station 5, all the forest disappears and gives way to barren volcanic rock. And then you're in the cloud zone, and then above that you get above the clouds. And there's parts of the fifth station that are also above the cloud zone. It depends on what's going on with the weather. But so I was like, we need to get Fuji sticks, or you are definitely not making it up and down this mountain. And he was like, okay. And I was like, we might need to see if we can get some rations or whatever. But you feeling good? He's like, yeah, I'm feeling good, but I want to get some hot food before we continue. I'm like, that's fair. You just, you earned a treat. Because you are not cut out for this at all. And, so, the whole, oh, jeez, my body.
I know from my personal experience of someone who's leads a fairly sedentary life.
Sure.
I walk around a lot more now.
Right.
Since just living downtown is just convenient.
Yeah.
But from going from like doing pretty much nothing all the time.
Right.
To now doing something very physically exerting. I can do it, but then the minute I stop.
Right.
And take
and
more than just like a 2-minute breather.
You probably know where this is going.
Yeah. I don't want to get up now.
You probably know where this is going, yeah. And I even thought of you. I was actually thinking of you because we did an episode, and it might have been the when I was the monk doing the 850-mile 88 Temple pilgrimage thing, where I was talking about, like, most people just can't get the time off work to go do it, And you were like, actually, to most people, just walking every day for 15 hours is an incredible thing. And I remember thinking, like, what's so incredible about that? You're just walking. This was my first time traveling with someone that's probably representative of, like, the actual general population. Like, I've never traveled with someone before. Like, I've traveled with, like, girlfriends, people I've dated and stuff, and they couldn't do the things I was doing, but also they never wanted to, so they never attempted it. This is the first time I traveled with someone who wanted to attempt to do some of the things that I'd done, who just really is not built for it at all. Like, it's not a matter of, like, willpower. Like, they're just a different creature entirely. But I was like, I'm not going to let this guy fail. Like, he's getting to the top of this mountain, full stop. So he's like, I want to get some hot food. And I was like, oh, you got it, man. Like, you got it. So we go in there, get a couple of big bowls of mountainside ramen. Big bowls of ramen. And we're eating them. They're good, hot food. Climbing the mountain. I'm like, they're nice. Very nice. And so we eat them, and then we go to get up, and he doesn't get up so good. And he's like, ow, jeez. And then we leave the hut, and we take about 3 steps, and he's like, I can't do it. I can't. Cannot get up this mountain right now. We're going to have to rest for the night, at least. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like 4 p.m. Like, are you sure? There might have been a little, no, it wasn't later than that yet. We might have started a little bit earlier, but we'd only been going like 6-ish hours, and he was just like, yeah, I'm fried, man. Like, I can't go on right now. Like, we need to stay. And can we get rooms in this hut? And I'm like, well, the sign says that they do have some space, so we could get a room if you need it. Like, that's your call. You're not looking great. And he was like, well, what do you recommend? What would you do if it was you? And I was like, okay, well, first of all, we're not using what I would do for you. But if it was me, I wouldn't even be contemplating stopping. I would still be going, and I would have started last night. But if I was in charge of the expedition, which I am, and you were my client, I would make you stay the night because you don't look great, and, safety first and all that. And you're not really cut out for it. And, if you're talking about needing to stay, like, this is more exertion, and it's we are at risk of altitude sickness. Well, he's at risk of altitude sickness, and I was like, probably best not to try to bang this out all in one go anyway. You might need some time to acclimate. So yeah, it's probably best if we do stay here for the night. And I was like, but since we're adding a day to the itinerary, we're gonna need more rations. Like, we don't have the rations. And I was like, there's probably gonna be a couple shops at the other 5th station. Like, we can go there and ration up. And I was like, so, we'll get our Fuji sticks, we'll get some rations for the extra day, then we'll get the room. And he's like, okay. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me go talk to this guy. And I was like, give me the money. And he pulls out his wallet and he hands me the money. And I'm like, where's the rest of the money? And he was like, oh, well, carrying cash makes me very uncomfortable. So I just got a little bit, I figured this would be enough. And I was like, this isn't enough money. I told you to take out more money. I told you to take out $500. And he's like, well, I thought this would be enough. And I was like, it's not. And,
or it would have been enough if we weren't staying the night.
yeah, exactly. That was exactly it. It would have been enough if we weren't staying the night. And I was like, but it's not. You didn't listen to me. And he's like, well, I learned the hard way. And I was like, you've been learning this same lesson for 2 weeks now. We've already been here for 2 weeks. Japan is a cash-based society, and now we're in a rural area. There's no ATMs on the side of this mountain. And he's like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, okay, well, here are our options. Maybe I could barter this guy down and we could get a room tonight with this much money. But if we do that, we're not going to have enough money for rations. We're not going to have enough money for Fuji sticks. And we're not going to have enough money to get back off the mountain. We're not going to have enough money to leave the mountain. He's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, so give me a second while I do an emergency, you're an idiot number crunch. So I'm like looking at the numbers. I'm like, you know what? I figured it out. I'm a quick-witted, clever guy. Oh, what I meant to say was, I'm a quick-witted, clever guy. You're alive because of me. Never forget it. So I was like, you know what we could do? There's a bus station up here. We could hike over to the bus station. We could get our Fuji sticks. That's the prime directive because we cannot climb without them. We'll get our Fuji sticks. We'll hike over to the bus station. We got enough money. We could take a bus down off the mountain into town.
To get more money.
Get
back on the bus and bring back up to the 5th station and restart.
By the time we got into town, the buses would have stopped running, but we were going to stay the night somewhere anyway. So we get into town, we could get a hotel room, and then use the ATM in town, get rations in town, take the bus in the morning back to the 5th station and continue where we left off. Kind of a save and quit situation to be picking up later. And I was like, still counts. We walked all the way up to you walked all the way, hiked all the way up to the 5th station. They were just going to continue from the 5th station. So you will still be able to say that you did the whole mountain up and down. And he was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So I go to the one hut that's open at the 5th station we're at. I'm like, hey, man, do you have any Fuji sticks? Or do you know where we can get Fuji sticks? And he's like, man, everywhere is closed. I don't know. And I was like, do you have any? And he's like, we might have 2. We might have. And his wife... so he goes into the back because it's they live in the hut also. It's kind of a big sort of inn, like a traditional inn, and so he's rooting around their personal area, and his wife is in the background what are you doing? And he's like, I'm looking for Fuji sticks, and she's like, we don't have any. He's like, I think we do, and she's like, no, we don't have any, and he's like, we might have some. She's like, we don't, it's not the climbing season yet, we don't have anything. Then he comes out with 2. And my working theory is that they were actually the man and wife's personal sticks. But he was like, we have these 2. I will sell them to you. And I was like, I will buy them. And so I took my buddy's money.
They're going to be like, I'm pretty sure they were just broomsticks.
No, they were legit. They were fully legit. I think they were their personal sticks. But he needed the business, and he knows that no one else is going to be climbing. No one's climbing in the off season. And when the season starts, they're going to get a big shipment in anyway. So he was like, oh, we can make some money. So he sold me the sticks. I bought them. And I was like, hey, the bus station, is it at this other 5th station? And he was like, yeah. And I said, if we leave now, can we make it in time to get to the bus before the buses stop running? And he was like, well, let me check the time. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. And he was like, 4:30 in the afternoon. If you leave now, you're going to have no problems catching this bus. I guarantee you'll make this bus. No worries. I'm like, thanks, man. So we take off. We walk for about an hour. Get to the next 5th station. Get to the bus station. This is the giant shanty town. The biggest 5th station. Huge, giant, huge. Of course, everything's closed, but there is the bus station. And I get up to the bus station. So it was 4:30 when I asked this guy, will we make it on time? And he said, not a problem if you leave now. The last bus stopped running at 4:20, which means I would have had to have traveled back in time 10 minutes in order to make it in time. Did he think I was leaving tomorrow? I don't know what his deal was. I think he just didn't know. I think he was just like, now that
He's just like, oh, sure.
Yeah, whatever. I sold you what you wanted. Get the hell out of here.
Go away so we can close.
Yeah.
Maybe it's different in climbing season, It was just
Yeah,
ways away,
yeah,
so
yeah,
he was-
probably. That's probably it. Probably is different climbing season. So, the buses had stopped. So, my buddy's like, oh, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, we can't get off that way. And, but there is a road that the buses take. And, so I was like, you know what? Maybe we can walk down this road back to town. Like, let me check this map and see what it is. But it's the bus road, so it's crazy twisty and turny. And, there's a guard, like a security guard that was at this station because it's giant and full of goodies. And I was like, "Hey man, buses coming back or whatever?" And he's like, "Oh no, they're way gone." It's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "What about this road?" And he's like, looking at me, he's like, "Look, this road is so long. This takes like 2 hours by bus." He's like, "If you walked into town from this road, it would take you like 10 hours."
I'm sure like zigzags
Yeah.
all around.
Yeah, it's just gigantic switchbacks up the mountain, so this bus doesn't just like fall over. And he was like, you would get halfway down and have to turn around and start climbing back up in order to climb the mountain. And I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. And he's like, plus, it's getting to be dark, and we have a gigantic barricade that we barricade the roads with now. And I was like, what? Why? And he was like, mountain bandits. And I was like, what?
That's still a thing?
Yeah, I was like, excuse me? And he was like, yeah, mountain bandits, we've got this gigantic shanty town. There's just shops and inns and stores, and they're all closed and unstaffed right now. So mountain bandits come in and like loot the whole town because no one's here to guard it. And he's like, so we just barricade all the roads now to keep them out. And I was like, oh, that actually makes sense. But the fact that we're having this conversation is ridiculous. And so my buddy's like, oh, geez, like we can't take the bus, and now the other place is closed, so we don't have enough money anyway, and we can't walk down. And now it's like getting to be nighttime. It's like starting to snow. It's like getting snow temperature. And he's like, well, we're gonna die out here. And I'm like, you're gonna die out here for sure. Like, I will live.
I'll be fine.
Yeah, I will live. You will definitely die. It's just like, oh, geez, like what are we gonna do? And they did have a vending machine for drinks, so we got some drinks out of the vending machine that they then promptly unplugged and shut off forever because they saw us use them, and they just were like, nope. And so they just and we thought that it was like maybe they do that at night to like save on power, but no, they just didn't want us using the machines. They just kept them off forever. But so there was no one else up there. I was just like, what are we gonna do? And then we ran into the only other person up there, besides this one guard, a Hungarian guy who arrived right before they closed the roads via very expensive taxi. And he was angry because, as he told us, he checked a series of reputable websites. Like, not just forums, but like actual websites. He checked 3 supposedly very reputable websites, liaised with them, didn't just check, but like emailed back and forth. They all assured him that when he got there, on that day, at that time, that there would be accommodations for him. And he showed up via expensive last-minute taxi ride, gets up there, 2-hour taxi ride, gets out, taxi drives away, they barricade the roads. There is no place for this guy, accommodation-wise, and he is angry. And rightly so, I would say. And I was like, yeah, I've been up here quite a few times, and there was stuff open like every time, but there's nothing open here. And he's like, what are you guys gonna do? And my buddy's like, oh, we don't know what we're gonna do. And I was like, yeah, we're working it out here. And he's like, well,
So you told well, the other station, they have accommodations.
yeah. They had already closed because now it was later, and so we were all just kind of hosed. Although I bet if you banged on the door hard enough, someone would probably open it. But he was like, yeah, I spoke to that guard, and there's a toilet that's over here. It's a sealed off toilet, and it's heated. And he's like,
just take turns.
he
Sleeping
was like
there for the night.
Well, he was like, there's a big handicap toilet that is sealed off and heated, and he's like, there's one giant handicap stall that I'm gonna sleep in for the night because it's sealed off and heated. And he's like, but right next to it is another handicap stall that's sealed off and heated. He's like, you guys could take that one. And my buddy's like, well, what? And I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to, or this guy's gonna die. So We wound up sleeping on the floor of a handicap toilet for the night to keep him alive. And I just remember it was really well lit, very clean for a public bathroom. But like we're just like bare skinning it on this public toilet floor, and we're just laying on the floor. It's well lit, very heated, and compared to the literally freezing temperatures of the outside, very nice. And we're just laying on the floor, and then my buddy looks over at me. And he's like, "Is this what it's like to be you all the time?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he's like, "You need food, you need transportation, you need supplies, you need shelter, but you've only got enough money for one, and you gotta choose." And I was like, "Yeah, man, this is my life all the time." And he looks at me and he's like, "This kind of sucks." I was like, "Yeah, well, first of all, it's good enough for who it's for, and it makes you very hardy and intelligent. And second of all, we wouldn't be in this situation if you'd listened to me. This is your fault." And he was like, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick to, like, working all the time and then having the money to buy, like, anything I want, ever." I'm like, "Well, different strokes for different folks." But yeah, we slept in there all night. We took an 8-hour nap on the toilet floor.
To be continued in part 2. Flip the tape over to side B. By that I mean wait a week or so for the next episode.
Nash! What?